Welcome, everyone, back to Coffee Talk. I am thrilled to be here for another sip and share, and I have a fabulous guest here with me today. Her name is Alexandra Vigue, and she is coming to us from Canada, which is, you know, I'm in Connecticut, so that's far away. And I'm going to read this amazing bio because I never want to miss a beat when it comes to guests and all the magic that they are. So, Alexandra Vigue is a mom, author, ghostwriter, developmental editor, speaker, and host of the On Becoming Sovereign podcast. Cannot wait to talk about that, where she explores the many ways we self-abandon and the path back to sovereignty. A passionate coach and storyteller at heart, she helps women release old patterns, amen to that, live in integrity, and reclaim their power. Through her work, Alex inspires others to speak their truth and rise unapologetically as their most authentic selves. Welcome, Alex, to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so excited. Okay,
Yeah.
so we are coffeeed up. Amazing. I actually am sipping on tea right now, so I'm doing a little
Me
tea
too.
time coffee talk. Yeah. But I know you are a coffee drinker. So the first important question is tell me about the best cup of coffee that you've ever had and why.
Okay. And we're talking like flavor, right? That's
Wh-
why or anything?
No,
Anything.
anything. Like it could have just been like an average cup of coffee, but the experience of the coffee having was just like epic.
Okay. Well, I think the best cup of coffee I had was actually when I went to Paris a bazillion years ago in my 20s. And I remember it was the first time I'd gone to Europe. And it was the first time, actually, it's the only time I've gone to Europe. And it's the first time I went anywhere by myself traveling. And it
Yeah.
was for work. And then I remember I got there in this country I didn't know. And I had my French immersion French from grade school. But I went and I ordered coffee. And it was just this tiny little shot in this little glass. And it was in this cool little cafe that I can still picture with these wicker chairs that were in this patio that extended onto the streets because they do that there. And I
Yes.
remember drinking it and thinking, wow, this is everything at the time that I'd ever wanted to do, be in this, romantic country and city and drinking coffee. And it felt very just like it felt awesome. It was a really cool experience. So I think that was my favorite cup. That's what came to mind when you
I
said
love
it.
that. It feels very French.
It was very French, very
Yeah.
français.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. They tend to do coffee. They tend the experience, right? Europeans
Yeah.
is very different. In Italy, same thing. It's like coffee is not just about the coffee, it's the actual sitting down and having that beautiful kind of experience, whatever time of day it is. And they're sipping on coffee like all the time.
All the time.
I love it. Okay, so
Mhm.
Alex, we met
Yes,
in Texas a few
we
months
did.
ago, which feels almost like a year ago. I don't know about you, but it feels as though like April of 2025 when we talk about Bridge, and I'm always like, "Oh yeah, that was this year," but it feels as though it's
It
like
feels so far away. I just said that to somebody else that I can't believe how much my life has changed since April of 2025, which is, I guess, almost, 6 months ago, but your
right.
life can change in 6 months. It's amazing.
Yes, it can. And we're going to
Yeah,
dive into that. Okay, so before we go into Bridge, I do want to talk about you have this up and coming, you just started a new podcast,
I
and this
did.
is not a new space for you because you've been in the podcasting world, but tell me more about becoming sovereign, what motivated you to start it, and yeah, just kind of like
Yeah.
what are you talking about over there?
Yeah, well, what motivated it to start it was I'm writing this book, and I thought originally that I would only do a 10-episode podcast series on sovereignty and what it means to come home to ourselves, to love ourselves first. That was because that weaves into my book. But I started it and I remembered how much I love podcasting because I did have a podcast for over 2 years. And so I just am mostly talking about self abandonment, the ways we self abandon, how to come back to a relationship with ourselves, what loving ourselves looks like, nervous system strategies, which we talked all about in Bridge. And yeah, it's fun. I love it. I love podcasting. I mean, you must love it too, right? It's so fun.
It's so fun. I mean, I love coffee and I love talking.
Yeah, it's
And
perfect.
it's like
It's like the best.
podcasting allows the best opportunity to bring both of these
Yeah,
worlds together. And we get to do it from all over the world. Like you're in Canada.
yeah,
I mean, yay technology, right? It is
yeah,
good for many things. Okay, so love it. Love so many important topics, right? Especially, right now with the state of all the things, right?
Mhm.
Self-abandonment, really loving yourself, right? And it feels as though this is coming from a very personal place.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean sorry, go ahead, ask your
no, yeah,
question.
no. Well, I think you knew where I was gonna go.
I thought
But
you just started asking the question.
but, yeah, so kinda just have you had moments in life or, maybe periods of time where you were self-abandoning and, maybe where you didn't love yourself and how this has now, become a topic not only that you found shifts in, but, just how you wanted to then start, becoming sovereign.
Yeah, I mean, I think I self-abandoned for the majority of my life. I was in addiction with, alcohol, so that is one of the biggest ways I think personally that we can self-abandon, to look for a way to self-soothe externally, and then it wasn't working for me. Um, and I really in that experience, I really self-abandoned from my own integrity, from my own sense of self. It didn't reflect who I was when I got super drunk, and, I was constantly rattling with feelings of unworthiness and not enoughness and self-abandoning into alcohol to try to get rid of those, but then just perpetuating the cycle. I think I grew up mostly in a place where I didn't have a strong sense of self and self-worth, and so I fell into a lot of strategies like people pleasing and, things like that, so I think I self-abandoned that way, and it really was Bridge that led me to the path of realizing well, I mean, sobriety and then Bridge to the number of ways that I had been self-abandoning and just what it means to live in alignment with my values, in alignment with my own truth. And, so that's kind of how it came to be. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you for sharing this kind of self-soothing piece.
Mhm.
I think anyone that's listening can definitely relate to how we default to these patterns and or substances and or habits that, feel really good in the moment, but ultimately and interestingly enough, it just perpetuates this inner angst and this inner cycle. Can you speak to, Alex, your journey with that, right? So, I don't wanna assume, but knowing we've had conversations and obviously our experience together in Bridge, but how did you go from this kind of self-soothing to really recognizing, "Okay, this isn't working?" What was that kind of moment for you where you're like, "Okay, nope, not gonna work
Yeah.
anymore?"
Specifically with booze, like why it wasn't working.
Booze, and then it really just anything, if there's other,
Mm.
because I think across lifetimes, there's probably moments, and then yeah, at least for me, I've had, like, little blips, and then there was, like, a big kinda like, "Okay, this isn't
Yeah.
real this is
Yeah.
not
This
working."
yeah, this is no longer working. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with alcohol, it was just like a 20-year relationship with it or probably longer that just became not fun anymore, and a lot of things happened leading up to it. I mean, I was unhappy, and so I would self-soothe, and then I ended up actually hitting my husband in a drunken argument, and I got arrested. So I ended up moving out of my family home, but because I was in a period where I was still really justifying my drinking, I continued to drink, and then I went on a trip with my girlfriends, and I remember I read on the plane ride there, I read Holly Whitaker's Quit Like a Woman, and I related to that book so much, and I remember telling a friend before I went on that trip, "I need to quit drinking if I can't go to Vegas and be a regular drinker." And so I went to Vegas and I was not a regular drinker. I really made a lot of my friends angry, and I caused a lot of chaos, and I came home and I knew I had to quit drinking. And it was funny because my ex-husband had clearly or we're about to be divorced, but he had clearly said to me many times, "You have a drinking problem," and I'd always argued him on it, and when I came home from Vegas, I happened to be staying at the home we owned together for a few days before I was moving to my own place new place. I basically he woke up and I came downstairs and I was crying and I said to him, "You were right. I have a drinking problem and I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, but I'm gonna do something." And, I will always be grateful to him actually because he said to me, "I've seen you do a lot of hard things in your life, and if anyone can do it, it's gonna be you." and I haven't drank since then. I just passed 2 years, and it was hard. What I had to do is I had to learn how to adult without booze,
Mm,
and booze is everywhere, right? So, I had to go to I just had to learn how to sit with my emotions, and I hadn't done that. I hadn't sat with my own unhappiness, I hadn't faced my shadows, any of it, and so I was forced to. And I wouldn't trade it because now it just is I'm not a drinker, which is funny to say because I was such a drinker. So, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's really powerful. And I really, this whole idea of not knowing how to sit with our emotions.
Mhm.
It's a topic that obviously was spoken a lot about in Bridge. It was the core of Bridge. But even when I'm, having more and more conversations on the podcast and just more and more with people, as this kind of nervous system work and this conversation starts to become just more out there, right? Which is wonderful. It is just I do continue, though, to be absolutely kind of enamored and fascinated by the idea that we are these human beings, and depending on how you grow up, you feel and your parents will, help to soothe you and, you cry and it's okay to cry, but then at some point, it's like all of it changes, and we become adults and grown up, but yet there's still that little girl, that little boy inside, right? That just feels and feels all the things, and we don't for some reason it's like we don't feel anymore, or we feel but we don't think it's safe to feel, or for some reason it's not allowed we're not allowed to. Do you kind of pick up on any, moments in life where you didn't feel safe to say the thing or actually like cry, or like
Mhm.
has that kind of been something that's been prevalent in your life?
So I've always been I mean, I was called overly emotional or overly sensitive as a kid, so I've
Mhm.
always been a deep feeler. Um, and so there were many times that I thought I couldn't feel. My mom, and okay, my mom's probably gonna listen to this, so but she knows I
Hey, mom.
but but so my mom is somebody who feelings are not her jam. Like, I have overwhelming feelings to my mom, and as a kid, she didn't and she would say this is true because 'cause we've talked about this, she didn't know what to do with my big feelings, and my mom
Mm,
doesn't often show emotion, and I grew up in a house where for both my parents, I felt as though I needed to guess the temperature of the room. I need to guess
same,
what their true
same.
emotion was,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And so it caused a lot of that hypervigilance, which
Yep.
sometimes still happens. But I think that when I really dove into numbing my feelings with alcohol, and I can really think of when I just was suddenly thinking I was in a bad place, but I just kept drinking. And when I didn't know how much I wasn't feeling. And I thought I was numbing pain, right? But now I know that when you numb pain, you also numb joy. And I
Everything.
numbed joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel, and I think Bridge, what happened, and you and I were in a container after that, Life by Design container, and I recently said to somebody, because we did a lot of anger release in that, right? And anger is sad's bodyguard, and below that anger was just so much sadness, and in that container, I've never cried so hard, and suddenly it was like this sword that I had lived my whole life as the guiding principle of how I did things, just wanting to almost attack or judge back or whatever.
Mhm.
It just was able to take a back seat because I was able to just move all this unprocessed grief that was under all that anger. Just so much anger that I hadn't felt and so much sadness that I hadn't felt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Agree. Those I've probably never cried and quite frankly screamed as much as I did within the last 6 months of my life.
Yeah.
And how clear that I feel from it, right? And it's not like I'm going out, just to be clear for anybody listening, it's not like, Alex and I are going out in the public and be like, "Rah!" It's like, no, it's no, you when you are, having that anger or that frustration, you are finding, slamming fists on bed, or, screaming into a
Mhm.
pillow, or, whatever it is, like, you're having that moment of release to let it move, and that feels when you first do it, it does feel very, I don't know about you, but, when I felt it felt out of body the first time I did it, because
Mhm.
was so new. Similarly, I grew up in that, I was very cognizant of other people's emotions around me and
Mhm.
keeping peace and not causing any problems because stress was high. So I wanted to, and as similar to you, became very hypervigilant, but also very, independent and just, I will figure it out. Um, from that, you take on a lot of responsibility that you feel like you have to, and within that, just a lot of, for me, anger, some resentment starts to come up because it's like,
Yeah.
why do I have to
And it's so stressful to manage other people's emotion, and it was actually our well, another girl in the container, Larissa, really mirrored that back for me one day because I'm so used to looking at a room and remembering other people's emotions. And she had brought something up days before, maybe weeks before, that had bothered her. And I saw something in our container happen. And so I said, well, Larissa's question wasn't answered. And I just inserted myself. And she said, when you do that, you rob me of the opportunity
Mhm.
to voice my feeling. And it really landed to me that yeah, it's a lot of work to manage other people's emotions.
Yeah,
And I see my kids doing it sometimes, and I think that now having gone through the work of really sitting with my own emotions, I can recognize it in them and not feel as triggered
yeah,
and give them the space to just feel the emotion. I mean,
mhm.
yeah, and it's powerful to see that for sure.
Yeah, so I love that, Alex, and I was when you were talking about growing up, I made a note of, like, when you said your mom didn't know what to do with your big emotions, and I know that you are a mom, and now having done this work yourself, I love can you dive in a little bit? We are raised as if we have to take on and fix and help the other person, but in reality, it's more just hold it, hold the space for it. So just let it, see it, let it be expressed. So can you kind of share a
Mhm.
little bit about how you approach that as a mom now?
Yeah. So you know how in life, we often pendulum swing on
Yeah,
something. So,
totally.
in most of my parenting journey, one of my sisters reflected back to me this too. She said, and it's true, I was so worried about not holding space for an emotion or not allowing someone to feel an emotion that I went almost so far the other way that I'd let my kids' emotions almost rule the
Mm,
show. But now I feel as though we're in a place where we get to work all together to sort of explore what it is for everybody to have a feeling. And how I approach it now is I feel so much calmer and so much more in charge of my own emotions or who owns which emotion that when things come up with my kids, and I still obviously get triggered, but there seems to be more and more moments where somebody can have an emotion and I can have a calm response and say, oh, tell me more about that. And then we can hold space to talk about oh, this person's angry and this person's sad but it's such a weird combination because I did swing so far the other way. And it was as though even I wanted to fix their emotions so they wouldn't have to manage the
mm,
room. And in doing so, they still manage the room. I mean, my daughter has said before, oh, I just feel like you're angry, which used to be a question that I would ask all the time. And so I had to look, how am I showing up that she would think that? Or my son once said, I just feel like I can never do anything right. And
mm.
I said, well, tell me more about that. How are dad and I contributing to that feeling? So, I mean, it's such a learning curve and kids are such mirrors of us and they mirror these parts of ourselves that sometimes we hold or I know I hold, shame or frustration or haven't wanted to look at.
Sure.
But I just feel as though my goal as a parent is to hold space for emotions. And it's now to come back to a place where, yes, I can hold space for your emotion and I can hold space for mine.
Yeah.
So we do talk about that a lot now, especially since Bridge. I'll say even Parker forgot his bag at school the other day, and an old version of me would have driven home because I was trying to fix what he had to suffer through because of that. And so we were at the school, I had a meeting, and I was like, well, that's a bummer. Good thing Breakfast Club is on. And he goes to get some extra snacks, and you have hot lunch today. He was so mad. He got out of the car and he slammed the door. And I said, "Yeah, I see that you're pretty frustrated in that. I don't
Yeah.
think he'll ever forget a backpack again, though."
Right.
And I was
My
Push
sister had this happen with my nephew. He was like a repeat offender, and the first couple times she would bring the backpack, and then it reached then, like, the 3rd time, she's like, "No, I'm
Yeah,
not," and then he never forgot his backpack again.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Um, alright, so
Yeah.
I'm just so
Sorry, I
eh
tangented.
no, please, tangent. This is brilliant. Okay, now here's the other question I have on the especially with working with your kids, because there's the word like I'm angry, and then I'm curious. Like, do you bring in the somatic piece, the body piece with them?
Yeah, I have been since bridge, and my kids think I'm insane. I know they secretly love it. When I first came back from bridge, I got them to do "I'm allowing," where they had to say what feeling was coming up for them,
Yeah.
and they're allowing. My son does lash out when he's frustrated, especially when
Mm.
he's at the capacity of his nervous system, and he complains about it, but I think he's afraid of what will happen if he does get super angry, but I will say we were even in the car the other day, and I said, "Fine, scream about it, just yell about it." And even another day, we were late, and I was so mad, and I think I had to bring stuff back to their dad's, and I was going to Vancouver, so I wasn't coming home, and I did turn around because we had forgotten something important, and so I went home, and I was stressed, and I had just
Yeah.
seen somebody's reel about releasing it, and I said, "Well, anyone's able to join me if they want," and I turned on Taylor Swift, and I was banging it out on the steering wheel, and I felt and they were looking at me as though I was crazy, but they played into it, and they got into it,
Yeah.
and then by the time we got to school, everybody was better. So I do try to bring it in.
Yeah.
They're skeptical, but the more and more I bring it in or do it, the more that I feel it. They know they recognize that it helps them.
Yeah, for sure. What a beautiful invitation. And that yeah, I mean, because it is that, right? So it's almost that fear, is this okay?
Yeah.
Because we're not really invited into expressing our emotions like that. I love that you just kind of banged out on the steering wheel and allowed them to be witness to that and join them in it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just beautiful that you but and even with Parker, when he's getting upset and you're like, you just wanna scream about it. Like, even just providing that safe space, because then you get to also kind of be witness to, okay, so much of what he's not only feeling, but just then can help him navigate that in if he's out in, like, the world and not in your van, like, how that can then be, like, manifested and processed in a different way, but still get to the same, release and result. I think that's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. I mean, yeah, and it's so interesting because as parents, we want to fix our kids' feelings, and it's as though to reach sort of, say, true sovereignty or to really love ourselves, we fix our own feelings, right?
Yeah.
Nobody else can self-source our own soothing, and I've been reminding myself that that's true of our kids too. I mean, I want my kids to grow up, and I've realized the ways I haven't provided that for them and that I'm now working on doing, but I want them to grow up so they feel that they can self-soothe or they can find the resources or that they recognize in a dynamic that they're in that, oh, this is not mine to hold. This isn't mine to fix or own. Somebody else can have their own emotion and their own experience, and it's not mine to
Mhm.
fix. And I think that that's so important, and it's been important to me, and then now I'm trying to mirror that to them too.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah,
every time that we get to I mean, it's so beautiful. I just think it's incredible and so important because the more we can have that as kids, well, then we get to just not be afraid of having that as adults within an adult, whether it's romantic or business relation, right? Because I mean, even what you
yeah,
said about self-soothing on our own, there's so many I brought in so much stuff into romantic relationships where I was leaning or expecting the other person to be
mhm,
that for me and also really taking on the role of being that for them because I thought
yeah,
that's what I had to be, and then within that the self-abandonment, right? And
totally.
when I'm not getting it back from them, I'm like, "Well, I'm doing this for you. Why are you doing this for
Yeah,
me?"
right? Yeah, and
It's
then we get to this point where we realize that, oh, It's not that you need somebody else to complete you, right? Like, I am complete, we are complete,
Yeah,
and I hope or I aim to call in somebody in the next romantic relationship that I'm in that is also complete, and of course, we all have wounds and we all have patterns. When we can know how to hold and recognize those patterns, though, then we're coming from a place of overflow rather than from that place which I always was in of, I need someone to complete me. I need somebody to make me feel whole, looking outwards to get the love I didn't feel for myself from somebody else. And that's a lot of expectation to put
totally.
on somebody else. Love me so much that I love myself. I mean, that's a big
It's a
request.
lot, it's a lot.
It's a huge
You got
request.
you got that right.
It's giant,
Yeah.
and I could see that now. I keep thinking, "Wow, that was a huge pressure on somebody else."
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and then, too, how, when we say we're looking for somebody else to, kind of be that soother, be and it's, the biggest thing that I took away from the bridge room and extreme and all of it is just, really what I was just looking for was to be seen, like, and just so that and that's it. Like, and to just be accepted in it and loved in it. It just that was the power. That was one of the main takeaways and just ahas from that entire experience. Just like, wow.
Mhm.
Not only that, really what I've been needing is just I don't you to your point, like I have that within me. Like I look in the mirror now and I say I love you and I mean it. Like I do. Like I genuinely love myself. And it's so really what I'm looking now for within a relationship is just just someone that can see it, can and I can, express my feelings and express what I'm feeling and not fear that it's gonna be too much, right?
Yeah,
It's that. And if it is, then that's not about me.
right.
That's about them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've mentioned bridge a lot. So, how would
Mhm.
you explain bridge to somebody who is listening that's like, "What are they talking about? What's this bridge thing? What is it? And do I need to do it?" How would you
Right.
explain the bridge experience?
Okay, well, I would explain it by saying that it's I guess, a leadership self-development workshop, and it's different than the other ones in the sense that it's somatically based, so it's I always explain it as I think it's on the website, they say this, but it's testing the capacity of our nervous system because your capacity of your nervous system is where you're gonna always get stuck, right? It's where suddenly we find ourselves in those fight or flight, fawn, all those responses, and so what it's a situation that you put yourself in if you're ready to be in a situation like that where you're really gonna be faced with your patterns. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit of a self-development junkie, and for me, it was the thing I needed. I've paid for so much coaching in my life, and I'd never been in anything like this. Nothing that, yeah, showed me in my body what I was still holding on to. And so, yeah, it's just looking at our nervous system and the masks that we wear and facing who we are because trauma, as they say there, and that it's just true. It's held in the body. Our trauma, we go through all these traumatic things, whether it's big T trauma or little daily traumas that our body still responds to as fight or flight responses. And it's held unless we process it,
Yeah.
unless the energy gets to move. And so that workshop was all about learning that, the foundation of that. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, getting tested in it, seeing the patterns, and then do with it what you want, which
Right.
for me too was, oh, go in another container. Some
Yeah,
people
more.
with more for some
Yeah.
people it was, okay, I got what I needed. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I look at it as like a dojo. The
Mhm.
more time I'm kind of out of it, reflect back at it on it as almost this dojo of, to your point, it's self leadership, but through the lens of again building capacity, and what that is really, being able to within a kind of more contained environment observe and see yourself doing the thing, the hard thing, the really uncomfortable thing, getting to the other side of it with now tools and strategies to create that safe body for yourself, right? So
Mhm.
to and it's not necessarily that you're not going to feel that thing, right? You're going to taste that constriction. You're going to get that, which is the ultimate thing that we're butting up against life, and we're like, not safe. I can't do that. But now in that room, the invitation is, what are you feeling? How can
Mhm.
we move it and
Yeah.
still do the thing? And it's a beautiful, like I said, it's that dojo kind of idea where you get to train, and then now you have that lived experience, it's in the body, so that then you can take it out and outside of that room, and now you have like, "Oh, no, I can." It's this is that exercise, this real life thing that's happening to me right now, this is just like we did in bridge, and here's how I managed it then, and, it's just such a
Mhm.
b and the space to which they create and hold, and the coaches, and I mean, I always say this, one of my key takeaways is, like, the fact that I now have, 80 other people who I know, including those coaches that were in that room, and we all walked in with weight of God only knows what, and how we all walked out like fucking like these lit up, lighter, magical humans, which we already were, but it's like
Yeah.
then you felt it. You're like,
Yeah.
and just like that was it's so, so special. It's
It's
so,
so
so
powerful
special.
and it is special. And exactly what you're saying, I find true too, that when we go out in the world, it is the practice of it. And the more reps you get in, the better you get at it. Right. And even this morning, my kid had hockey, not soccer, hockey at 7 a.m. We had to get up at 5:30 at Tim Hortons. The lady, for some reason, had to get me to come around the front. All these things kept happening. The timing wasn't working. My son was stressed and I wanted to react in stress and I felt it. And then I had this moment where I was driving and I quickly was able to recover, which I wouldn't have been able to do pre-bridge. And
Mm.
I said, "Okay, you're stressed. What do you need to do to hold the nervous system of this car right now to keep the
Yeah.
to be the person who is making it calmer?" And so I just took a minute. I changed it from Coldplay to angry or music. And then I just got to hockey and said, "Okay, we have 15 minutes. We can do this." And we did. We were ready 2 minutes before it was starting and it was fine. Whereas before, I would have matched the stress, gotten to hockey all frazzled and been like, "What do we have to do? Make everyone around me miserable, including my child." And then hockey would have started and I would have started at a 10. And
Yep,
I just started at a 5, Saturday morning 5. I was like,
yep.
"Man, yeah, it's good." Yeah. It's wild.
Isn't it
Yeah.
funny how the car I don't for similarly, like, the car has become a place for a
Yeah.
lot of moments, whether traffic has always been that thing for me where I can handle a lot in life, but there is something about because it's no like, the control is taken completely out of you, and you're like, "Ah."
Yeah.
Um, but there have been a few times since Bridge Extreme that I've, gotten an email, and I just go into, like, rip roaring saying the first, before responding back, I just let it spew out of what
Mhm.
ultimately is that first reactive, non-helpful, but very expressive, uh, he animal come out, and inevitably, once I'm on the other side, either I have the mature adult version of what it is that I actually am feeling and wanting to say, or I'll get some sort of, universal kind of nudge of something that will lead me to the more impactful response. But um okay, so you are also a writer,
Yeah. I am.
and so tell me how did you get into writing? Has writing like been your that's like the first thing that's like your first core through line before podcasting and all this other
No.
amazing things that you do?
No, I had done many things like sales. I stayed home with my kids. Then I decided to run a daycare and I didn't like my job. And it was COVID. It was in the middle of COVID or before COVID, I had started taking courses because I wanted to do a master's of counseling. I decided this is what I was going to do. And one of the courses was career counseling, and we had to career counsel ourselves. So we did all those career counseling tests, and I had to career counsel me as myself as a client of what I would do. And I had this aha moment where I had been sitting with needing to be a counselor because I thought that was going to get me what I wanted. And through this career counseling, I said to myself, wait, I've always liked writing. I have a degree. I have a diploma in marketing. I could write and be a copywriter. So I went after that course, then it was COVID, and then I decided to start a copywriting business. So I wrote copy for people's websites. And so the writing on people's websites, I wrote blog posts and I really got into that. And then it evolved into writing. And through my podcast, we wrote a collaborative book. And that's when I realized, oh, I just love writing as the art and it could be a career was because we did a collaborative book and I had been in a few collaborative books in the past. And when I got everybody's, assignments or not assignments, but people submitted their things, I had this moment where I went to the editor and I said, "These are all, like, blog posts, and they're not what I want them to be, and I can't tell if it's my perfectionism or if we just didn't give the people the tools." And she said, "I don't think you gave people the tools to be able to pull out the stories." So her and I
Mm.
went back and we framed these stories, and I helped people write their stories with a hook and with what story they were gonna tell, and it really got me excited, and I said to the editor, I think, but at the time, I was used to putting myself down, so I said, "I think I have a real skill for this," and she said, "You do have a skill for this," but I didn't really believe it, and then I ended up just doing more writing, and I got a client who I asked if she wanted me to help ghostwrite a book, and then I got a writing coaching client, and it just kept evolving from there, and then I always had my own desire to write. I had mapped out these romance novels years ago, and I thought, "I'm gonna do it," and so now I'm writing a romance novel. So I'm doing that, which you might think, "Oh, that's the biggest self-abandonment genre out there," but the beauty of this romance novel is that I did hear this quote after Bridge. I wrote it in between the Bridge and Extreme. I wrote 6 chapters, came home, didn't do anything about it, and then I heard this quote that, this guy had said, and he said, "Real love won't feel like a drug, it'll feel like home." And then I went
Yeah.
into that
Oh, I
coaching, right?
love that.
It's so good. I love all his quotes, but so he said that, and
I'm
I
writing
went
that
into the
down.
coaching container we were in, and you and I were in different groups, so I go into this group and I say, "Guys, my goal was gonna be this, but what if you think would happen if I wrote this book?" And all of them reflected back to me they had never seen me so excited about anything, and it is literally the most creative thing I've done since high school, I think, and it came from that place of just flow, and so, yeah, now it's gonna get published, and I'm still working on it. Obviously, it's a process, but I love it. And I'd only ever written smaller chapters that got published, but this is my first full out book,
I
and it's
can't
so
wait to read it. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Okay, so do you wanna share any other details about it? Like, any other juicy
yeah.
details
So I
about it?
mean, I basically am calling it. It's like Sovereign Love series. There's 6 books in it. This one's second chance romance. But what I want it to
Love it.
be, and this is where all the bridge stuff comes in, is I'm really trying to make it about loving ourselves first. So it has that in it. And now, because we've done Bridge and Extreme and I've done all this nervous system work, I can read a romance novel, which used to be my go-to escapism, and recognize the codependent patterns. And
I love it. I
so
love it.
I'm trying to make it not
Yeah.
codependent. And I go through it sometimes, and sometimes I use AI and I say, flag the parts that you think sound codependent still, or the parts where my character is acting from a wound. And it's okay if the character acts from a wound, but I just don't want it to I want this book to be different. I know a romance trope so well, so it does follow the tropes, and
Sure.
though it's different. And I'm I don't want it to be about that chemical addictive love. It really is. I mean, that like Josh Wenner quote really hit me. It's that real love. It's that feeling of home, that feeling of safety, of providership, and also of being able to surrender that's not just from a wounded place. So
Mm.
that is what I'm trying to create in all of them, and all 6 of them. I mapped them out. So yeah. I'm
I
excited
love
about
it.
it.
Oh, I'm excited to okay, this is like you're totally, like, turning the romance industry on its head, Alex. Look
I'm
at
turning I
you.
know. I'm a
Oh,
bit scared about it, but also excited about it.
now, when you are working with clients, because there might be someone who's listening to this be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this could be something that I wanna work with Alex on." Um, how do you weave I'm curious, are you weaving this nervous system piece in with working with clients?
I think how it helps me with clients is I'm able to recognize their pattern quicker, I
Sure.
think. So I'm able to ask better questions. So I have this one client who, when I was doing more, sobriety coaching, and I have a client through that still, and I said to her, "Oh, we can't bypass the part where you have to relearn what it's like to, go to situations where you don't drink." And I don't think I would have said that before because I almost wouldn't have noticed it, but it was the feeling she didn't wanna feel of having to go through that, and so I think it helps me the nervous system stuff, I don't necessarily I've given clients a few, "Oh, this has worked for me," but I where I think it really works, though, is I recognize their pattern, I ask them different questions, and I'm able to approach it differently. I guess, like, I think of that sobriety client in the sense that she, fell off the wagon at one point and didn't wanna talk t like, I knew she was avoiding me, and so I finally got her to say, "Hey, like, what's going on?" And she told me, and so I said to myself, "How do you wanna show up? What would you have needed? How do you
Mm,
wanna show up?" And I was able to show up for her because I imagined that if that were me, I would be feeling shame, and I wouldn't wanna tell my coach or their sobriety
right.
coach that I'm fallen off the wagon, and so it allowed me to give her that version of me, the version that did feel compassion for, "Hey, this happens, and what are we gonna learn from it?" So
Mm,
that's how I bring it in, and it's taught me how to not always have to say the first thing that comes to my mind, which is my pattern for sure. I
yeah.
always but I can stop now. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much power. I agree. There's so much power in that too. Because that first thought, I actually was listening to it's a podcast with Mel Gibson, which it was
Mhm.
that was the fact that he was saying it was hilarious. But he said the same thing. Go with the second, like go with your second.
Yeah.
Like don't like you can say you can say the first one out loud, not necessarily to like if you are, processing something, you can say it out into the ether to get it out. But like don't let that be that for because it's just reactive. It's that animal kind of just like that oftentimes
Yeah.
not and not necessarily animal in the sense like we're gonna bite back, but it can be that just like reactive experience based on our own lived experience in our nervous system and so that
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. Having that pause, there's so much power in the pause
Yeah.
where we can, kind of just say, okay, how can I help her get to, essentially or him realize that get to their own answer versus
Yeah.
trying to, like, fix it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and I agree, and you mentioned this before, because I mean, ultimately, we are our own healers.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1000%.
Ultimately, we are, and it's that idea I think they say this in Bridge too, Alexi says it, "Can I hold myself in my anger, in my grief, in my sadness?"
Right.
And once we can do that, then we're able to hold other people
People.
in theirs. Because then I find I don't know what your experience is, but then I'm not going into it, trying to fix them, right? And this even I had taken this job temporarily, and there was a woman who had come in, and her child had, died in a very tragic way, and it was only being able to because I could not hold myself in grief before Bridge, and I remember the moment that I was crying in the grief room, and I said to my group, "Oh, I can hold myself in grief now." I experienced myself in grief, and I felt compassion, and so then this woman came, and I was able to just hold space for her in the silence, which in the past I would have tried to fix the silence, and she said to me, "Oh, I felt really seen in my grief." And it was only because I wasn't trying to fix her grief. And that felt powerful to me because that's the power of the work is to understand that we can hold ourselves in it and so we can hold space for somebody else to be grieving, to be sad, to be angry, and
Yeah.
it's not attached to us. That's I can feel that
That's
in my body,
that.
the feeling of it not being a grip on me, that that's
Yeah.
your experience and I can hold space for it, and I don't need to let it be in my body, and if it is, what is happening? What's it bringing up, and how can I move it?
Right. Yeah, that whole idea of care and but not carry, or how
Yeah,
can you carry that, how do you carry the load, so to
yeah.
speak? Yeah, I love it. Okay, is there anything else that you wanna share about anything that you've got coming up, working on, or
Coming
any
up
other
or
final
working.
notes that you'd like to put out
Yeah,
there?
I mean, if anybody has, say, a story they wanna share or they're interested in writing, I'm always happy to talk to anybody about that process, and, um 'cause I do love storytelling, and I think what I would just leave people with is that, we all have the power, I think, to just change our lives, and I've noticed that through when I quit drinking, I've noticed that through bridge and the work that I did there, and it's just that deep willingness to be able to look at the truth within ourselves and look at how we're showing up and how we can show up differently, and then, yeah, just do it. Like, we can all do the thing. It
I love
just
it.
takes that, looking
I
at our
agree.
shadows. Yeah.
I agree, and I just if I can tap on it and just add one thing to that, it's
Yeah.
small. It's small so these these changes are they're small little moments of a day where you are sh going left instead of right, and while it may seem in that moment very insignificant, over time, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months down the road, you're all of a sudden like, "Oh, no, I'm a different person. I'm a
Yeah.
different human," and I did that. I did that by choosing. I chose instead of,
Mhm.
it choosing me as is so commonly referred to in those rooms.
Right.
I love it. All right, Alex. Well, if someone does wanna work with you, which everyone listening, do it. How can how can we get in contact with you? How can we follow you? All that good stuff.
Okay, well, you can follow me on Instagram. It's alexandra.vigue, Vigue, and, yeah, feel free to DM me there, or you can email me at alexandravigue.com, or I do have this website that I haven't touched in probably, 8 years, and also go visit that. It's just my name.com. But yeah, reach out. I feel like DMing is a good way, so Instagram for sure. And
Amazing.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. This was a pleasure. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
fun.
you, everybody, for tuning into Coffee Talk. Alex, love you, girl.
You
And
too.
cheers.
Cheers.